One morning, as Steve was dressing himself, he thought about something that you have probably thought about, too. He thought about how easy it was to tie his shoelaces. This used to be hard for Steve to do. Once his mother had to do this for him, but now he could do it by himself. He liked getting out the food in the morning for Chipper, his dog. Taking care of Chipper was Steve's job every day. Later, Steve had on his coat and was ready to go to school, but his mother hadn't packed his lunch. Instead, she gave him money to buy his lunch at the school cafeteria. Steve liked to pay for things himself. On the way to school, Steve had to cross several streets. He had been taught how to cross safely. He looked carefully both ways, and when he was sure no cars were coming, he crossed. Steve liked to do things himself whenever he could. Sometimes it wasn't easy. And he thought of asking for help. But when he really tried, Steve found that he could do it. Sometimes we can help ourselves when we have trouble with our work, as Steve did when he came across a word that he didn't know. At first, he was going to ask Miss Wilson, but she was busy with some of the other children, so Steve tried to figure out the word himself. He looked at the word and then at the picture for hints. He tried to think of a word that would make sense with the other words, and then he knew. The word was plant. He had figured it out by himself. Of course, we can't do everything by ourselves. Sometimes we learn to do them by watching others. Later, at lunchtime, Steve had no trouble getting his food. It was easy to find the different foods and to choose certain ones. Not too long ago, his teacher or parents had to do this for him. Steve felt proud because he could count the money to pay for his own lunch. And he knew how to take care of the rest of the money his mother had given him. After lunch, Miss Wilson had put out some things on a table. Poster paints and brushes. They were going to paint. When Steve had trouble opening one of the paint jars, Ken offered to help. But he couldn't open it either. Joan thought that she could open it. The boys needed the paint, so they let her try. Running warm water over the top was something Joan had learned from her mother. Now they could get the top off, and they could use the paint. So Joan had shown them something they could do next time for themselves. It's usually more fun if you paint things that you think of yourself. Later, when the pictures had been laid out to dry, Steve and the other children cleaned up. They washed off their brushes, put the paint and other supplies away, and washed off the tables, so that everything was left just as they had found it. Taking care of things we know helps keep them in good condition for when we wish to use them again. Steve was proud of his. He had enjoyed painting it, and he'd enjoyed the many other things he had learned to do. Like Steve, all of us can have more fun as we learn to do new things for ourselves.